discussion and consideration of a study and transition plan for the barrier removal and installation of curb ramps in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Mr. Darden and Ms. Sugaran.
I'll start out. Mayor and Council, you may remember previously we've discussed that there were some complaints filed against the city by a few individuals. Those were filed with the Texas Department of Transportation, who then made a report to the U.S. Department of Transportation. We have received 4 of the 5 responses as far as that goes. There were a few, very few recommendations made by the Department of Transportation as far as, you know, what we need to do to make sure we're in compliance with everything. The crux, some of them actually were against, it turned out to be against TxDOT because they concern US 87, which is state-owned. Some of them also will be 3rd and 4th Street, which also are the state's responsibility. But the crux of the recommendations so far that they've issued are to implement the budgeted plans for ADA compliant sidewalks and crossings on Lancaster Street from Canterbury to HEB. And as as Butch just discussed in the PSC update, that is in our budget. Those sidewalks are to be part of the construction that will begin in May or June of this year. So that's taken care of. Also, they had said to take action to make City Hall accessible to persons with disabilities. I contacted Carol Broyles with USDOT, who was one of the woman who wrote several of these letters. She said the inspector's notes indicated that there was no ramp to City Hall, and I told her that there is in fact a ramp to City Hall, and so we're going to take some pictures and show her that. Now, there are other issues with accessibility to the upstairs of City Hall and of course to the auditorium, and I'm going to let Todd talk about that here in a minute if he wants to comment on it. And we would like to budget those items in the future and begin you know, getting around to those items. And I believe PSC has prepared a study on that already and has started on that. The third thing was to conduct a self-evaluation as to where curb ramps are needed and prepare a transition plan that includes a schedule for installation of required curb ramps and warnings. We had done this back in '96 when ADA first came into being, but we were never able to lay our hands on the transition plan that actually resulted from that, and of course things have changed since then. So what we'd like to do is propose that the council appoint a committee of staff members and maybe a council member to do another self-study, check and see where all we need ramps and curb cuts throughout the city, and also have a coordinator appointed, and then have some means of taking input from disabled persons in the community. And those would go a long way towards helping us prepare this transition plan that we need to have. So Todd may want to elaborate a little bit more.
Well, as Linda stated, with PSC and TxDOT projects that are upcoming in the years, a lot of these complaints will be issued or be taken care of. Lancaster was another location from the retirement centers that we have around 17th and Lancaster to HEB and being an issue. What we've tried to do, we brought to the council a recommendation that we budget funds for sidewalk and crossings within those locales, and y'all authorized a $150,000 budget to address that. The staff has met with Park Hill Smith and Cooper and decided that since we're going to be spending about $9 million worth of street and utility reconstruction that will address ADA, that we might make this as part of that project. Even though the funds will be paid for out of the general fund, we could still bid them out with our project and include that so that we get good pricing. We're already going to be getting pricing for contractors for those items. Why not utilize that in the bid? So that's what we're proposing to address Lancaster. The funds, again, will still come from that general fund budgeted item. The auditorium, Park Hill Smith and Cooper came down in September, and in October they prepared the staff a preliminary opinion as to what it would take to make City Hall. Of course, the council chambers was brought into compliance in '95, but City Hall, the auditorium, and our training center upstairs have some ADA issues. So we asked them to come down and look at that and give us an opinion as to what we would be looking at from a cost standpoint to bring these portions of this facility. And when I talk about this facility, I'm talking about the 4 areas as common area. And so it was roughly 1.7 million. 300,000 of that was sound and lighting. Of those of you that attended our MLK celebration last night, you'll notice that our lighting was kind of, missing some bulbs, and some of the other fixtures on the stage were not lit up. It's not because they weren't turned on, it's because we can't turn them on. It's an antiquated system that was put in '86. You cannot get parts for it anymore. The restrooms were built in the 30s. ADA was not a consideration back in the 30s. The dressing room, the stage, City Hall, none of those things were considered. We have put in ramps to City Hall. We put a handicap parking in our primary parking area, which here in front of the council chambers, and the parking lot to the west of the council chambers. But we still can't get people to the second floor, that have, ADA issues of getting up there. Right now, if somebody needs us on the first floor, the staff must come downstairs. Park Hill, in their preparation of this report, addressed all of these issues. So $750,000 of it is roughly ADA to address City Hall, the upstairs training center, and the auditorium. I talked to some of the council members about applying for a grant. I applied for that grant back in December. We were not successful in being given that grant. It's not that we're not going to keep trying, but what we're hoping to do is maybe address some of this with the committee and come back with some firm recommendations to the council as to how we address ADA in our facilities.
Well, we did those steps back here in-house. That was an awesome job that those two guys did. Maybe we can do some of this stuff in-house, because you guys are awesome when it comes to in-house. We are.
One of the things, Ms. Horton, about ADA is once you start, you have to finish.
Yeah, I know. But
if we come up with a plan, it's got to be something that we address from start to finish. I'm not saying we couldn't have some of those things where the city could certainly look at doing some of it as in-kind work, but I think as we go through this transition plan, because we will be submitting this to the state and the state to the DOJ and so on, so this is going to be a plan that we're going to have to live with for a long time. Not to say we can't amend it, but at any time and point. But it certainly gives us, some steps in that direction.
You had some specific ideas on the makeup of the committee, if you wanted.
Well, whoever from the council, certainly we would like to have somebody from the council on there, but, right now our ADA coordinator that's in ordinances where we've gotten block grants from the COG, the ADA coordinator has always been our HR director. I'm not saying it has to be that person, but our ordinance was set up with the HR director as being the coordinator. I think, the public works director needs to be on there, the building official, the city attorney, somebody from finance, possibly.
That might be a real good idea.
And of course, the attorney would just sit in and review everything that we're recommending.
I think it's a very good idea. My